So I don't see Lifecycle as a progressive track of a consumer through the experience of the brand. I see it, and I'm an outlier. I have arguments with other people in the industry all the time, and it's kind of fun. But back in like I said before, back in the days where we had to teach people how to use the internet, it made sense that it was a linear progression through a series of phases. Nowadays, it is just a stage that is not necessarily connected to another. So think of them as areas of focus, not necessarily a progression. Now, you could say that I was acquired by my friend and I was informed through intent by the website and then I converted, but that's BS. Every area has moments of leakage. When we come in and do assessments for companies, there is not one that I've been like, oh, I got nothing. You're completely perfect, right? There's always an area where you could do better or expand your effectiveness through either best practice or looking at your demographic and addressing that demographic.
Great. Uh, if you've ever felt like your email campaigns are going out but not delivering the results you have hoped for, this session is for you. I'm pleased to welcome Ryan Fallon, CEO of RP Origin. Ryan brings 27 years of experience into digital marketing and CRM, and has led programs for global brands like HP, FedEx, Capital One, Skype, and US Bank. He has also contributed to shaping the industry standards through his work with Kickbox and Email Sender and Provider Coalition. Ryan is known for being direct, practical, and highly effective in helping organizations turn email from an underperforming channel into a true revenue driver. In our conversation today, we'll cover lifecycle improvements, meaningful personalization, and metrics that really matters. So stay tuned and welcome, Ryan.
Thanks. Happy to be here. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it would be with things evolving in life cycle marketing with the AI announcement. Definitely, it's a good time to chat with you and
Yeah.
should get more insights from you on how the overall life cycle marketing is transitioning. So before we move forward and segregate ourselves into channels, right? We talk about different channels, right? I would love to uh, take your 2 cents on how email has been working as a revenue engine so far. Because if you see the overall journey, right, email was the channel which was predominantly giving result, right? Now people are talking about life cycle marketing, multi-channel marketing, omni-channel, right? But initially it was only email, right, which was driving it. You have been clear that email has consistently been delivering and one of the top performing channel for decades, right? And you have seen it grown, right, from starting the email as a channel, getting the best output to it, and now you have also seen that journey of transitioning from email to multi-channel. From your perspective, what are the real reasons email programs normally underperform for different brands and lifecycle marketer, and what are the common mistakes you see that brand or lifecycle marketers are making, and would you recommend any advice or suggestion
Yeah.
on how to address those gaps?
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. So I think, we talk a lot about omni-channel, multi-channel, connected, whatever, but it all starts with email because of the primacy of the email address as a unique identifier of the individual. Um, Social media accounts are not always traced back to a legitimate account. They all base their reality on an email address for registration. Email continues to be at the top of that list, and over the last 25 or so years, email has traded spots with social media every once in a while, but on a whole, email has that dominance. And it's because, people try new things. We've been talking for 20 plus years about connected or omni-channel marketing within the email space. My earliest conversations on stage with people was the most effective type of marketing was one that was connected to other channels because consumers don't always just interact in one channel. Thus the practice of looking at channel propensity and where does your customer gravitate to for intent versus purchase, because it's not always the same channel. I think that marketers, when if they see a degradation in their performance, it's not necessarily because of the channel. Consumers have changed. Their preferences have changed. Their tolerances have changed. And part of that is our fault with overabundance of cadence. But also the internet has changed over the last 20 years. When I started in 27 years ago, I can remember going to conferences and hearing the keynotes say it's our job as marketers to take the hand of the consumer and lead them through the experience of buying online or navigating online. That's because everything was AOL and we were teaching people how to shop. Everything was new, right? And so what we may have lost over that 27-year time frame is that we've become complacent that email would just always work. And that's not necessarily true. It has to evolve, it has to change, it has to integrate into other channels, and because the best message is one that is resonating between the other channels. You can't have a silo in this day and age between mobile, social push, all those text, all those different things, and email stand on its own. It already lives in a box in some respect because of the technology limitations placed on it. It can't from a messaging standpoint. So I would put the responsibility of changes in return at the feet of the marketer to go, how have you evolved your channel and your ability to market to a consumer in that channel.
Yep, that's a fair point. That now lifecycle marketers, email marketers, or brand has expectation that email will give results because it has been giving results
Yeah,
so far and has the best ROI, right?
haven't had to
Compared to
try.
yeah, any channel. So it's like the marketers has started expecting it as a default, right? That
Yeah,
okay, email will always work, but then it's not like it will work. You need to test it. You need to experiment. You need to spend time in testing out that channel, right? On what is working, what is not working, and then try to get the results. But yeah, uh, it's
email is
like
the
people,
email is the only channel where you can suck at it and
yeah,
still have a good return, right? And
yeah,
any good entrepreneur, any good founder, any good successful CEO would tell you that success takes work. And we do that every day on our side in working for our clients. And it's not just post a campaign and see the returns. It's about thinking about the strategy before the tactics. It's about looking at the customer demographic. It's about looking at the additional and ancillary channels that we can utilize. It's about doing the requisite work to get the return. Just putting a campaign out there means that you can launch a campaign, not that you can think strategically.
yep. So it's not the time to be doing batch and blast, right? It's about
No.
understanding the segment, understanding the audience. Yeah. So things has changed. Email has evolved a lot, and marketers should also start evolving if they want to get the result out of email. Now, when we are talking about the CEOs, the brand marketers, right, and they are leveraging email as a channel, we also need to talk about martech as a system, right, where there were the marketing tech stacks, right, which they are trying to leverage to get the result. It feels like every week there is a new marketing technology or platform, right, or tool that is coming into the market, which looks promising to the world. But before you know it, you have got 15 different platforms with similar expertise and outcome, right? You have helped Fortune 250 and 500 brands and SaaS companies in making sure that they have a right, perfect tech stack, right, which can give them result. So, in your understanding and experience, what are the red flags, right? That a stack is too bloated, or let's say if there is a process, right? What's your process for deciding what will stay, what will go, and what's worth investing in terms of time, money, and effort?
Yeah, yeah. I, it basically starts with what's your tech strategy, right? I mean, I've been on calls with huge companies and I ask them what their tech stack is, and the explanation takes a full minute to go through all the platforms and all the systems they have, and I get to the end of it and I'm exhausted and I'm like, what's your tech stack strategy? What are you tech, are you wheel and spoke, are you all in one, are you, who drives those decisions? And basically what we find is that large tech stacks are a consequence of too many people making too many decisions without a holistic look at their systems, right? And so what we really try to do is come in and evaluate the duplicacy between the different stacks, right, or the different systems, and try to simplify their exchange of data for the use case that they have. And we find that a lot in email, right? There's a lot of companies that do a lot of things within the email space, and APIs have made it very easy for companies to integrate. It's no longer just a batch file that's uploaded on a regular basis. It's real time and it's real action. And so we get in and go, what's the purpose for this mechanism, this component? What does it do? What is the ROI? And does this exist in another system you have? And not that we're a proponent of all in one, but we're a proponent of wheel and spoke that can be an all in one, right? We're vendor agnostic, which means we don't care what system you have. We just want it to work the best. And so if we have similar capabilities on an existing platform that we can consolidate, then we're going to definitely look at consolidation unless there's an outlier use case that this platform is actually better than the incumbent or better than the other partner. So we do a lot of those throughout the year as well as ESP and CDP RFPs and migrations. We do a lot of tech stack analysis to say, do you need this? Is it helpful? Is it useful? Does it ultimately degrade your ability to act on your stated strategy because you've got to go through 12 layers in this stack, right?
Yep. So it's always about making sure that if you have the tech stack, you don't duplicate the efforts and the
Yeah.
outcome, right? It's getting achieved, right? It's better that you try to get rid of those and platforms. And it's you rightly said that you need to be as a consultant, as an agency, you always need to be platform agnostic, right? You can't just pitch and continue focusing on one platform. Now, when we are talking about tech stack and the marketing automation platform, right, which brands and marketers are leveraging, we also need to discuss about the funnel, right? There are different stages of lifecycle marketing, starting from acquisition to conversion, right?
Mhm.
Uh, a lot of marketers are obsessed with acquisition, right? They want to acquire the audience, but they don't realize that, okay, how much they are bleeding or are not able to get uh, the best out of middle and the bottom of the funnel, which is the crucial part, right?
Mhm.
You work with brands like Capital One, Skype, and FedEx on specifically for retention side, right? Where you want to make sure that you retain the customer even after the acquisition. Uh, when you look at the life cycle performance, what or where do you actually see the biggest leaks in the funnel, right? And if you can share one example during your world journey, which you definitely would have come across, right? Of a kind of campaign that actually fix those leaks and get or help yield results for
Yeah,
marketers and brands.
it's a great question. So I don't see life cycle as a progressive track of a consumer through the experience of the brand. I see it, and I'm an outlier. I have arguments with other people in the industry all the time, and it's kind of fun. But back in like I said before, back in the days where we had to teach people how to use the internet, it made sense that it was a linear progression through a series of phases. Nowadays, it is just a stage that is not necessarily connected to another. So think of them as areas of focus, not necessarily a progression. And I'll demonstrate it this way. Um, Friend of mine sends me a garage door opener that they just got. I click on it, I look at it, I need a garage door opener, so I buy it. Now, I've not gone through acquisition, I've not gone through retention, I've not gone through browse marketing, I've not gone through abandoned cart. I've gone straight from I come to your site and I buy. Now, that totally defies lifecycle marketing because in lifecycle marketing, it's a prerequisite that you start with acquisition, you go all through. Now, you could say that I was acquired by my friend and I was informed through intent by the website and then I converted, but that's BS. I instantly bought because I had a need you didn't know about, and I converted because I needed one, and this person advocated for it, thus raising the level of my intent. Okay, so I see lifecycle marketing as non-connected phases that you have to have coverage in terms of programs, automations, journeys, triggers, whatever you want to call it, right? And to your question of in what phase or what area do I see marketers falling down? Every every phase, every area has moments of leakage. When we come in and do assessments for companies, there is not one that I've been like, oh, I got nothing. You're completely perfect, right? There's always an area where you could do better or expand your effectiveness through either best practice or looking at your demographic and addressing that demographic. I'll tell you, the best solution we had. This was a long time ago. Was recognizing loyalists, and one of the things that the life cycle mindset does not enforce is the loyalist demographic, right? And we have a different approach over here. Is that we look at it as non-connected phases, but one of those non-connected phases is your loyalist group. And what I want to do in my data is recognize who's a loyalist and who's not, and who's a brand advocate and who's not. So that friend of mine that passed me the garage door opener not only advocated for the garage door, but advocated for the company to which he bought it from. So he is a brand advocate. Now, you should recognize that. Maybe through repeat purchase, maybe through referral, maybe you can't. But there are always ways to look at, is the person a loyalist or not? And every vertical is different. And so what we did for one retail company was put in markers or indicators to say this person is a loyalist as opposed to this is an occasional shopper. And we designed messaging specifically around and procedures specifically around that loyalist group. So if we had a big sale, that loyalist group was sent the email before everybody else. They got exclusive discounts. Now, we didn't go out and say, you're one of our loyalists or you're one of our most important customers, because that phrasing has fallen flat over the years because we've overused it. But I show my loyalty through the messaging that I provide them and the treatment, which only encourages that. So what we did was go in and look at the data and look at the demo and look at behaviors and say, okay, this group of 4,000 people are our loyalists. I'm going to treat them differently. So we had different tracks in our content calendar for them. We had different treatments in terms of promotion. We defined a whole rule set, and then we tracked how many people came into that group and exited that group, and what was the reason for the exit. So if they exit or trite, then what do I want to do? I want to treat that attrition different, because that loyalist is generally more higher in an annual revenue than a normal customer. So it's a whole focus on the loyalist, but again, that doesn't fall into a traditional life cycle view, because you go straight from conversion to attrition or retention, and then attrition, and then that's it. And it's like, well, that's a fairly simplistic view that was born out of the ESPs 20 years ago, and I don't know why we keep holding on to this funnel or this customer view when we developed that. A few ESPs developed it 20 years ago. It drives me crazy.
Yep. So that's really a fair point, that uh, loyalists and brand advocates are not definitely seen as an important part, because the lifecycle marketers or email marketers are purely focusing on bringing new customers, right? And then they miss out on getting that return customers and advocates who can grow their brand beyond the equation which they are focusing.
Yeah.
Uh, one other sentiment which is common and is also uh, there from quite a while is, if I'm getting an inbox placement, that's delivery, right? People are considering that if my email goes to inbox, it's the delivery for me. Inbox is not equal to delivery, right? And we also need to understand that it is going to kill your ROI if you have that sentiment and feeling. Many marketers assume that once they hit a send, their email gets delivered, right? But inbox placement is a whole different. game, right? It's not about only coming into the inbox. It's also about making sure that you are visible to your subscriber,
Yeah.
right, or customer. You have been involved with deliverability standards to Kickbox and ESPC, right? What are the most common deliverability mistakes you see brand making, and what's the first thing you would like to fix to make sure that uh, it stops revenue loss and are able to save some bucks by improving their overall deliverability?
Yeah, yeah. I think the one common fault I see is that people aren't paying attention to it until they have to. They look at the reports, they see their unsubscriber, their spam rate at a certain level, and they just move about their day. Uh, that's the first mistake. The second mistake is basing that opinion on the tools that the IS or the ESP provides. They're not very robust. And we encourage all of our large senders to have a separate company that monitors inbox placement because they need that more robust insight into where their emails are going and all of that. The third thing is that I think as an industry, we focus too much on the attrited populations instead of the active populations. One of the neat things that AI provides the email marketer is the ability to, within a controlled instance, right, to upload a lot of your data and do analysis on when is my attrition point. It used to be for marketers, we had to wait in line for CRM, our data scientists, to look at that and then have to go back and look at how do we treat them and all this kind of stuff. AI offers us a fast track to upload that data and look at very specifically when our attrition points are and what different cohorts we can put our customers in to win them back. But you know, the ISPs are getting very particular about sending to mailboxes that are abandoned, that don't get much activity. And so you keep sending to customer records that are a year or 2 years old, you're going to get burnt, right? So that all goes back to list hygiene, that goes to external monitoring, that goes to paying attention to it, and then an effective win back or attrition program that allows you to put a little effort into it, but focus more on the people that are alive and focus on that that uh, that trigger point when people start to attrite.
Yep. And marketers, no, marketers normally don't go through that practices of list hygiene, which you definitely raise that.
Yeah.
That's an important, yeah, right, to make sure that their emails are getting delivered into the inbox, right, not into the spam. And many times they also uh, overlook the spam and the higher on subscribes, right, which gives you signals about your acquisition of audience. So
Yeah.
definitely something they need to focus on. um, when we are talking about martech, when we are talking about email as a channel, when we are talking about uh, deliverability, right, one other thing which we should definitely focus on is the overall strategy, right? As we discussed earlier, it's not about batch and blast. It's about strategizing, identifying your ICP, reviewing your customer data, attributes, what could be done in order to make sure that you get the best out of your audience, and try to help them rather than you just sell for to your audiences. Uh, the bigger question and the one which is talked every time is personalization, right? Everyone is talking about personalization, but they don't do it in a right manner, right?
Hmm.
Having just a first name is not personalization, right?
Yeah.
Everyone would have talked multiple times about it, but yeah, still there are brands and marketers who just say that, okay, we are doing personalization and it's only limited to first name. uh, as we know that there's a lot of talk about personalization, and most of teams are just sending first name as a basic personalization, right? And calling it a day. You have been building behavioral and preference based programs which are giving results and which have been giving results in past, right? What does an actual or real personalization look like today,
Hmm.
right, given the scenario where the inboxes are crowded, right? uh, Subscribers or audience is getting too many emails, right? All of them with first name, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone knows simple level of personalization. uh, what does an actual or real personalization look like today, and how can lean teams pull it off without needing a data science squad, right? In terms
Yeah.
of going through the data.
So how I think about personalization is this: it's on a scale from 1 to 10. If 1 is using a name in an email, and 10 is the message is fully built by a system, then think about where you fit on that scale, right? Now, I'm talking more at this level about enterprise marketers, teams of 6 or more, they've got some room to do some heavy lifting, right? And most enterprise companies that we work with have a team of way more than 6, especially if you add in the agency partners that work with them. And so, what personalization looks to me like is being, for an enterprise marketer, somewhere above 5. So I'm not only maybe using a name, but I'm inserting copy that's specific to the demographic. I'm putting an imagery that is gender focused or gender aligned. I'm using past history to populate products that are in the email. For example, Nordstrom's, which is a popular department store over here in the States. I've signed up for them. I'm a guy. They send me women crap all the time. I don't know why. I've only bought men's stuff. Occasionally, I buy a purse for my wife because she's begged me for it. But for the most part, I've bought and looked at men's stuff. So why do that? You know, those kind of things are personalization. Personalization is how does, at the end of the message, how did that align to the consumer? If it aligned a little bit, then that's a 1. That's first name. Whoopee. That functionality is built into your ESP, but so is a lot of other functionality, like changing an image based upon a data field in your database, using different copy, using different products. That's all built in technology, but we as an industry sometimes have phoned it in to just say, I use this, I'm good. To your point, I've personalized the message. Whoop-de-doo. You know, I can hang my hat and move on to the next thing. But that's just phoning it in. So I'm a little bit more harsh when it comes to people's ability to do that because we all have that data. We all have what somebody has bought, and we hopefully have what somebody has browsed. If we have those two pieces and where they live, right? If we have these 3 pieces of information, we can personalize the crap out of that. Because if I'm in the South and you're sending a message now, guess what I want? Cool stuff because it's 106. But if I'm in the upper Northwest, it's raining still. I need an umbrella, you know? So those kind of things are just simple types of personalization. We're not even talking about advanced personalization where you're using complex models to look at in-stock inventory and base it on propensity and all this other kind of stuff, right? We're talking about simple and the line that I put from data sciences to what I can do in my platform is that 6. 1 to 10, if you cross the Rubicon at 6, you're now using data sciences to put together some pretty advanced stuff. And so for marketers, you know, think about that 1 to 10 scale. If you're below a 3, uh, okay. I mean, if you're a singles contributor, sure, first name and something simple, that's great, man. Hang your hat on the fact that you're doing something. And I am impressed by single marketers that do as much as they do. But be really honest with yourself and go, I'm a single marketer. This is all I can get done. Great. I've got 6 people on my team and I can only do first name and maybe a picture. Maybe we could try harder.
Yep. No, that's definitely a good point. But one thing before I move forward to the next question, one thing which is also important is making sure that you have that data available, right?
Yeah,
There are still marketers who are not aware of what to collect and what to store, right? It could be a survey which could help them to
good.
personalize on a
Progressive
stage, right?
profiling, all kinds of stuff.
Progressive profiling. Yeah, but they are not aware of leveraging and getting data from the user, whether it is zero party, first party, how to leverage it in the best way, both zero and first party, to personalize the stuff for your subscriber. And that's the challenge where the marketers are not able to review data, collect data, and collect it, right? In order to make sure that they go an extra mile beyond that basic first name personalization?
I think you can. There's definitely constraint there, right?
No.
I think there's two avenues. Number one is the data outside of your purview that you need, right? So when we do integrations, we try to get as much data into the platform as possible when we do migrations, right? Because we know that at some point you're going to need it. We want to make it available to you or make it seamless, frictionless to add that data into the stream. There's other platforms or other marketers that don't have much data. All they have is email address and email response, right? That's where the email marketer needs to look at progressive profiling to say, you want to know something about your consumer? Just ask them, right? Now, some of that information is transitory. Some of it has an expiration date. But if I ask you if you're a male or female, I don't see that changing much, right? And now you can ask that, and you've got that as part of your data. Fantastic. Now you can start to blah, blah, blah. But if you ask for it, you have to use it, and you have to use it occasionally. So if Nordstrom's would send me an email going, hey, what's your gender? What's your age range? Where do you live? Great. Key pieces of information that I can use actionably in further messaging. If I ask that, then the next week they send me women crap, I'm going to be mad. And
Yeah.
so make sure if you ask for it, you have a direct strategy from the answer of that question into the solution to the messaging you have. But for marketers that are constrained and don't have a lot of data, just ask for it. Now, if I ask, what's your mood today? Well, I'm on drugs today. My mood is fantastic. But on Thursday, that's not going to exist, right? And some of the questions we would ask in progressive profiling have that expiration date. So we have to recognize that it's not evergreen.
Yep. No, well said. Um, when we are talking about strategy, one thing which I would also love you to help us with is the marketing campaign calendar.
Yeah.
Uh, there are brands and marketers who plans out calendars 3 months, 6 months in advance, right?
Yep.
And are not prepared for uh, ever changing world events, right? Which would hit with zero warning, right? And you have written about this concept of agile campaign execution, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, so for a team that's stuck in quarterly planning mode or half yearly planning mode, right, who wants to be well ahead of the time and curve, right, what's first step they should take if they want to become more responsive without burning themselves out, and
Yeah.
try to leverage the world events, right, which are happening.
So I always encourage teams to do 12-month planning. And people are always like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone 12 months from now. And
Yeah.
there's a difference, right? Do 12-month planning, but 2-month close in. So everybody knows the cycle of their business. When their high season is, when their low season is, when there's a holiday, when there's an event, when there's, everybody knows when Christmas is, Thanksgiving is, Hanukkah is, back to school, out of school, summer, spring, fall, winter. Everybody knows that. Map
Yep.
it out on 12 months. You don't have to have the detail and the specificity, but what you do is as you progress through the calendar, you start to have that 2-month planned out. That second month is if the whole year is 25% planned, then 2 months is 50% planned, and 1 month out is 75% planned or 100% planned. And you start to fill out the details as you start to go forward. And so you have to have that global strategy view of your entire year and what's coming. You don't have to have all the details. You don't need to know if it's February that in November you're going to launch 5 campaigns on a Friday, but you need to know that Thanksgiving is on the Thursday, the Thursday the 27th or whatever in the hell it is, right? And so you need to know that, back to school is this date, or our highest sales day is this day, or whatever, right? Map those things out so you can have a view into them. I'm a huge proponent, have been for 20 plus years, of strategy before tactics. That's a clear indicator of strategy before tactics, is having that stuff laid out and then start to fill it in as the details become known and then you can execute on those better from an Agile's perspective. You can start to plan out what campaigns are coming down the pike. What do I need to have in place? When do briefs need to start? You know how long it takes you to turn it around from brief to deployment, right? And so you start to fill in those details as you get closer, but you have the framework to be able to do that.
Yep. So marketers should definitely be aware that there are specific events, right, which are anyhow happening, right?
Yes.
Be aware of it and plan out at least for the next 2 months by having visibility of the 12 months calendar. Um, what One other thing which we wanted to discuss and also want your insights on is how to rebuild a trust in a low attention world, right? Permission alone to just get an email is not everything, right? We hit a moment where audiences are numb, right, to even compliant messaging. Now, you have often said compliance doesn't equal trust, right?
Hmm.
And that legal messaging can still feel like a spam, right? If you are not aware and attentive, right? Especially in moments of high stress, like during COVID, what are the most effective ways you have seen brands rebuild trust with their audiences, and how can teams avoid the trap of doing the legal thing that still turns people off?
I mean, what we learned during COVID was authenticity rules, right? And your relationship with your consumer is whatever it is, right? It may be discount based. You may be sending discounts all the time. Okay, great. You're discount based. You can be a little bit authentic or a little bit real, but really at the end of the day, people buy crap from you because it's discounted. Okay. Maybe quality based. Great. That's a great thing from an authenticity standpoint to talk about. Whatever your relationship to your customer is, your subscriber, whatever, admit it and live into it. But trust has always been built from a perspective of authenticity. Now, in terms of compliance, the US is, I mean, listen, the US is weak on compliance. We have to respect the opt out. Whoop de frickin' do. We get into the EU and all that, and we get into a whole nother bag of tricks. And so there's different, in the UK and the EU, trust is assumed because the laws are so strict. Over in the States, trust is not assumed because of the abuses of the past. And so really you have a brand equity play in any trust conversation because they have to trust the brand, not the channel. And so if you harm the channel, then you harm the brand. And so ultimately, it's about how do you ladder up or ladder out from the brand equity that you have to establish trust in a holistic standpoint.
Yep. So people often take channel as a main thing, but it's all about the brand, right? That is getting hampered. It's not the channel.
Yeah.
So marketers should definitely be aware that they don't harm the channel, because that is always going to harm your brand,
Yeah.
no
I
matter
mean,
what.
people see Nordstrom's as Nordstrom's. Everything that comes from Nordstrom's is Nordstrom's. They don't
Yep.
think of it as the Nordstrom's email program or the Nordstrom's social media program or the Nordstrom's direct mail piece. They think of it as this is Nordstrom. So consumers see it as a holistic, unified entity that talks to its customers in different ways. Marketers see it as this department, this department, this department, this department. Okay? Everything ladders to the brand equity.
Yep.
That's how the consumer sees it. So if you screw up an email, it isn't just they haven't segregated off the email program as sucking. They've segregated off, they've said their email sucks and probably so does Nordstrom's. And if you're from
Yep.
Nordstrom's up here, by the way, contact me. My wife loves you and I buy you my stuff. So,
No, that's really a fair point. Now when we were talking about martech, personalization, making sure that you rely on email as a channel, right? And not forget it, even though there's multi-channel and omnichannel into the play. We also talked about strategy, but now it's time about discussing the results, right? The metrics, right?
mhm.
Which are the key. Too many teams are still tracking open rate I'm not sure why they are tracking it, but yeah,
I have no
but
idea.
open it as open it as their primary metric, and calling it as a success, right? Uh, Even though being aware that Apple's MPP update, right, has hampered the overall opens, right, but still they consider open as their primary and call it as a success. You are pushed for metrics that reflect real customer behavior and not vanity opens,
Hmm.
especially in your work with Adestra and beyond. So we would love to have your insights on which specific performance indicators or KPIs should brand marketers or leaders focus on today,
Sure.
and how to recommend tying those metrics to executive level reporting, right, when they're presenting it to the management, right, that secures budget and also get their buy-in.
Yeah. Delivered, right? I got in the inbox. Delivered. That's a hard number. Delivered means I sent this and it got into the inbox. Did the consumer see it? I have no freaking idea. Never been able to track did they see it. But we know that it got there. So then it falls on the brand relationship and whether or not they open it. It also depends on whether or not they have a strong play and relevant information and the consumer wants to open it, right? Or wants to view it. Opens are dead. Leave it alone. It's like it's akin to you broke up with your girlfriend, but you still go over to her house every day and ask, "Is it really over?" They're dead. Let it go. Just let it go. It doesn't mean it doesn't. So then we go on to click and we go on to what action did they take? And you go, well, I can't, I don't know. Yes, you do. Look at the performance reports. It's all in the ESP, what they clicked on. Using tagging in your URL strings for click is effective to tell what they clicked on. Next, integrating website behavior with email behavior. So what did they clicked on something and went what? What did they do now? Is that an intent indicator? Is it not? Did they browse around? Do you have pathing reports? Are you integrated fully with Google Analytics or whoever you use? The downstream, the two things that you have to figure out are purchase, which is partially email and mostly website, because purchase, conversion has always been attached to email just because it has to, but conversion is a function of the website. It's not a function of email. Email is to be a throughput for intent, to produce and grow intent. But the email marketer looking at revenue per email, looking at click, uh, do progressive profiling inside of the email, and look at the click there. Those type of metrics are incredibly helpful. Then look beyond the frontline data and your backline data of what did they purchase, how often did they purchase, do they purchase through email? Because just because I have an email address on my account does not necessarily mean that I'm going to buy through email. Look at the backend data to see all those different pieces of information to determine your efficacy. At the end of the day, the best way to determine the efficacy of an email is a persistent or a temporary holdout group, control group, to look at what's the behavior of somebody that gets the email versus the behavior of somebody that doesn't, and produces a percentage of lift that says email is this effective because we sent the email to them. So I mean, there's a lot of different metrics, and a lot of complexity there, but at the beginning of the day, opens are dead and stop depending on them to tell you anything of value.
Yep. No, I totally am totally aligned on that point on making sure that you test out the audiences, be it temporary holdout group or control group, and see what is the behavior. But one interesting fact which I've also observed, I will be referencing one of the prospect and the client with whom I was working. Um, they and again, I'd love to take your opinion on that. When we see that there is a good open rate, good click rate, right, but still the results are not there, be it the conversion, right, the conversion was, let's say, form submission, right. uh, Now everything boils down to your landing page, right,
Mhm.
be it a website page, a landing page, how many fields are there, how long the form is it 5 field form,
Yeah.
30 field form, right.
Yep.
And then the client or the prospect was interesting. The objective was to make sure that how I can improve the conversion rate and what we can do
Hmm.
as an agency to support. And I tell that your click rates are 10%, 12%, right? And although it's a journey, it's a automation. You have a good click rate, right? Click rate is not a challenge. You can still optimize on your content. You can still
Yeah.
optimize on your call to action text. But then the challenge is not your email. The challenge is your landing page, right?
Mhm.
Even though people would go there, they are not completing it. So try to focus on it. What would be your recommendation when there is a scenario
Yeah.
when the email marketer, as a lifecycle marketer, you are doing everything good to give results in terms of clicks and let's say converting it to a website visit,
Hmm.
but then that visit is not getting converted to actual business revenue or actual business goals. That's where the limitation is as a
Yeah.
lifecycle marketer. You are not involved. What would
Yep.
be your take on this?
So now you've switched from B2C to B2B, right? The
Yep.
whole strategy changes.
Yep.
When you have a click out of an email onto a landing page on the B2B side, and you don't have that conversion, you've done something to not deliver on what the email said. So the email communicated X, and when they click through, they didn't find X. Now, what didn't they find? Most likely it goes to trust, because at that point, you've asked them to give up an email address. That is sacrosanct. So is it trust? Is it messaging? Is it too long? Is it, you didn't deliver on something. They didn't find what they thought they would find on the landing page. Whether that was a relationship based in trust, whether that was the content, whatever it was. That's why a lot of companies, ourselves included, have gone to non-gated content, because I would rather have them have the material than have to require it for them to download and find out what I did. And what we've seen is also, this may not be your problem. You click through from a website, you go, or from an email, you go to the website. I have to enter in my personal information. Me not entering it may not have anything to do with your brand or your brand equity or trust. It may have everything to do with how the last 10 years have gone with B2B spam.
Mhm.
And they have ruined it for a lot of companies, because it used to be that if you put your information in, now you got email from freaking everybody, right? And just merely saying, I'm not going to sell your information is about as helpful as if you click on the unsubscribe, I won't sell that either, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why ungated content is I believe has gained popularity, is because we got to fight too much for that acquisition. ABM strategies all depend upon an envelope of trust or informing the consumer as to what you do, until that intent is high enough for them to reach out and action that intent. Well, ungated content feeds into that level of information. And what we've seen in the last 20 years is that companies that are successful are perceived as smart. And if I perceive myself as smart, then who cares whether or not I asked for the information at the download, or the contact? Why don't I just tell them I'm smart, and then they'll reach out if they need me? Now, there's salespeople all over the place. They're like, if I have no leads, I'll have nothing to do. It's like, well, too bad. Go out and hunt, you know. So on the B2B side, there's a lot of factors that are in our control and outside of our control. And what I encourage companies to do is test with gated and ungated content, have some sort of identification system on the website to look at who came to the website, who downloaded, who, you can, there's enough website information out there and de-identification of anonymous users to, we say, okay, if you've got an asset on the landing page, if it's ungated, click here to get your asset. Then take them to a thank you page, have that page tagged so that you can proactively see who did it, if they can identify them, then store that in your CRM and see if there's a return visit or an outreach, right? There's a lot of different things you can do to test the efficacy of that effort.
Yep. No, that totally makes sense. When we are talking about B2B and B2C as a as a domain, right? We are also talking about the disruption which is happening in the market, right? Uh, Between AI disruption, economic pressure, and constant restructuring, right? That is happening across the organizations. Many marketing leaders feel like they are flying blind, right? And in your marketing in mayhem framework, uh, what do you advise leaders to prioritize so they can make smart moves even when the ground is shifting and moving towards a different arena?
Executives, for as long as I've been in the business, want stability. They want growth, they want stability, and they want effectiveness. They want scale. Well, those four things basically need to be done. You look at an audit, you look at an assessment that we do to look at where you can grow. I think the best thing for senior leaders to do is depend upon a third party that doesn't have a bias. Um, the other thing is, when was the last time an executive talked to the marketer one on one and said, "What do you need? What are your struggles? What are your pain points? Um, what can we do to help?" Right? Email has been historically underfunded and understaffed. Um, it's about the honesty of a forgotten channel that's perceived as cheap. Uh, but we always encourage companies, especially mid-market all the way up through the super enterprise, to do an assessment from somebody that's not biased, and take a look at what it would, ask the simple question of how can I make my email work better and make more money? And then when I tell you what it is, enact those things. Just don't go, oh, that's too expensive. Well, again, back to my earlier comment, success takes work and it also takes investment. And if I am the top ROI channel and I said to you, I wrote an article about this once, is that if I could double my email revenue for a company, would you let me? And that's the question the marketers ask every day. I'm producing a high ROI, I'm producing a high revenue stream for most of these companies. You would think that executives would be fawning over the email marketer to say, let me give you what you want. But we don't, and I don't get it. But that's been the trend for the last 20 plus years. So senior leaders need to really think about their business and go, okay, I'm going to invest in the channel that's actually bringing me a shed load of money, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I would love to add on to your comment on success comes with cost, right? It's not
It does.
easy. Yeah, it's not that easy. One other thing where I would love you to spend a couple of minutes is on the AI disruption, right? I know
Sure.
you would have talked multiple times with multiple people around how AI is evolving and how AI is changing the lifecycle marketing, and I'm sure you are aware that it has changed a lot of areas like how email was designed, right, and how email was developed, right. These are the two areas which has been uh, I wouldn't say hampered a lot, but yeah, these are the two areas where AI has evolved a lot, right, in terms of having tools which can be designed. There are tools which could be convert your design to HTML, right? Denada is one I'm sure you would be aware of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a good friend and an excellent email marketer from an agency world has started Denada, right? And there are similar platforms who are trying to help in terms of converting or creating design to the HTML. But what would be your take, right, when it is coming to lifecycle marketing, right, where the marketing executioners or let's say campaign managers or strategists, right, who are still playing that role of implementing things, be it campaigns, journeys, segmentation, right, reporting insights and optimizing their programs to get the result. What is your take on how AI is going to hamper the rest of the part of lifecycle marketing apart from design and development, which is already been hampered?
You know what? I think the design part of AI is not there yet at
Mm-hmm.
scale. I think the copywriting is a joke. I think the subject line thing is like putting my first name and calling it personalization. We grasped onto these archetypes of what email or AI was in its infancy and said that's the extent, and I'm going to use it like crazy. And it's like that was in the infancy. I've been saying since AI came on the table, get me to the data part. Get me get me to the agentic part. Get me to the advanced crap. That's where the power of AI is. And so I'm not a big proponent on AI building out emails from a design
Hmm.
standpoint. I'm there for AI to crunch the numbers and run the models to figure out what products to put in an email. You bet. I'm a big person to teach a model the specific um, voice and tone for a cohort to put alongside that image that looks at a huge model of consumers and how they react. I'm a huge proponent of feeding in a whole bunch of data and looking at insights and looking at what we talked about earlier with attrition points or products or logging in. There's one platform out there that you can log in and it says, "Hey, we've identified this consumer group that is predisposed to buy washers and dryers. Would you like to send an email?" Hell yes, I'd like to send an email. You know, there is a lot of advanced stuff, but I think then we go back to writing copy didn't take much effort. Hey, AI, write me copy for a blender. Okay, fine. Copy and paste. Have a nice day. Right? Again, we got to go back and do the work. I taught an instance of ChatGPT about my business. Financial records, marketing materials, contracts, clients, ICP, advertising, all this stuff. I spent in all this information, did a lot of work on it. It took me a while to do it. I did that because the future payoff is less friction because I did the work up front. AI is going to require people to still do that work. You have to work at it. This idea that you're going to flip a switch and AI is just going to figure it all out is crazy. So take AI as what it is. It's a tool to accelerate your marketing if you invest in the right way, but it's not going to solve your marketing. It's not going to replace me as a strategist because for as good as AI can be, 27 years in different verticals ain't going to get me. But if you use AI in a controlled fashion in terms of your company's instance, teach it your ICP, teach it your customer demo, use it as a resource, realizing that AI can screw up just as well as humans can, use it in an appropriate way, but you have to put the effort in up front.
Yep, rightly said. So yeah, your take is AI is not going to uh, and AI is not about design and development. It's all about
Yet.
interpreting the data. Yeah. So
It's
it's more about,
yet, right? We're
yeah,
still, what, 3 years in AI
yeah,
at scale that it's open to marketers? Okay, look at email 3 years in. Where was it? Now look at it 20
yeah,
years later, right? Will AI
yeah.
eventually be able to do design and assemblage and cadence and analysis? You bet. Are we there yet? Nope. But
Nope.
we have to learn how we get there from today to tomorrow.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
just because we want AI to do something doesn't mean it should or that it can.
Got it. So it will still take time for AI to learn and adapt, right? It's still
Yeah.
new. Maybe for marketers, it might be creating some challenges, but then it's still far from replacing people or marketers
Mm-hmm.
who are actually doing the job. Uh, One other thing, Ryan, we would love to hear about, and this definitely would be our last question, which we would love to cover, is around one theme we keep hearing is that marketers are drowning in advice, right? Blog influencers,
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn threads, and not all of them are great, right?
No.
But now you've said that three-fourths of what's out there is, let's say, less than helpful, right? There would be few who are helpful, but just to wrap it up, right? Where do you recommend marketers actually go to learn how to do email right and in a manner which can yield them results? And how can leaders separate trusted sources from the noise, which is
Yeah.
eating up them most of the time, and giving them direction, which is pointless?
So that's a great question, and I get it quite a bit, right? There are a lot of people out there talking about email that have no frigging idea what they're talking about. And I absolutely hate them all. And God bless them for trying, but I wish they'd just shut up. It's great to have an opinion, but a lot of these people are claiming that they've been doing email for 20 years, and I'm like, I don't remember you at the meetings. Um, what I tell people, and I have a slide that actually, and if anybody ever contacts me, I'll give them the slide. I have a slide of like 27 people that are like my people who I would trust with any advice they ever gave. And some of the advice they give, I totally disagree with, but I actually like the mindset and the logic that they go through to think about it, right? And it's challenging thought. But not to say there's only 27 people out there, but I always encourage people to look at their LinkedIn page. What email job did they have? Did they push the button? Have they ever pushed the button? Have they ever worked in an email company? Do they have email in their title? How much publication have they done? What organizations are they part of? You're hiring somebody, in essence, when you read an article, you're hiring somebody to teach you something. Look at their CV to say whether or not they're a carnival barker or not. And so I really encourage people to look at the authors they read and really encourage people to take a a critical mind to it, because just because you're on the internet doesn't mean you're smart. It just means you're on the internet. So I gravitate toward the major publications, martech.org. I look at uh, uh, marketing posts or media posts. Sorry, the knee stuff. There's a lot of good publications out there, but on an individual basis, look at their CV. It's very easy. If you look at my LinkedIn, it's very easy to tell I may know a couple things about email. If you look at Kath Pay's CV, it's very easy to tell that she knows a little bit about email. Skip Fedora, Scott Cohen, even Delaquist. It's very easy to tell they know a couple things about email. So use that as a barometer.
Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. So thanks, Ryan, for sparing time and giving us insights starting
Bet.
from tech to email, the personalization, AI, and also making sure that giving references to the audience on which platforms and individuals they should focus on to learn about email marketing. I know you have seen email smaller as a baby steps to growing so far, and also seeing how the other channels are trying to put email down, right? But yeah, you've seen the overall journey of email, and thanks for sharing the insights. I'm sure it would be quite helpful for all the lifecycle marketers who is listening to this and in getting and optimizing their program and tech stack.
Great. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. A lot of great questions.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you. Take care.